I could have been an artist, an author, a violinist, or at least continued this path into academia. Instead, here I am questioning all the possible life decisions and what if scenarios, like I have an option to go back in time. Being young, huh? I recently read this book called The Midnight Library by Matt Hay, and surprisingly, I deeply related to the lead even though she's 34 and I haven't even completed quarter of my life. I guess that's what evolution is in modern age. You get midlife crisis early on. Woohoo! I sacrifice a lot of my being, relations, emotions, time, energy because hustle culture. But for what? Just to realize the reality is as disappointing as it was? Have I even made any progress? Because I feel dumber, weaker, inexperienced, and even more like an amateur. All I did was collect diplomas, degrees, certificates just to be told it ain't enough. What am I supposed to do now? Sell my soul? Already did that. I know. I haven't lived long enough to go around questioning stuff even before living. But isn't that interesting? That I'm being subtly brainwashed by the media, society, and all. That if I don't achieve it early on, then I don't deserve to exist. Okay, bit of an exaggeration there. But seriously, where is that wisdom boomers love to throw around that good things take time and shit? After seeing so much disappointment in the same path that I tried to be in, or forced myself to be in, and getting rejected over and over again, that it simply seems impossible to dedicate to anything in my life. Or maybe just my INTPness Gemini 5 and 4 air element introvert, pizza sandwich speaking. This is stupid. I don't even have social media, apart from YouTube, of course. Yet, I couldn't escape the shackles of comparison. You know how tiring it is to see your friends or well wishers as possible competitors unconsciously and sometimes consciously all the time? Always having this nagging voice reminding you how you all started together but you are the only one left behind. I couldn't even acknowledge their success or celebrate their joy. It was getting to a ridiculous extent that I started avoiding them. It just stems from years of high expectations from oneself and lot of insecurity that you start projecting on others. I felt so small, so insignificant. I mean, in literal sense of timescale we all are, but still the thought of being negligible statistic of 1 in 8 billion felt really terrible. I really tortured myself unnecessarily, especially for something which in hindsight seems very insignificant. I have a long way to go in regards to bettering myself, building my trust, having faith, especially during tough times, and not fearing the randomness of universes working. You know, life doesn't seem as it is when you get hit with a major crisis, epiphany, or emotional breakdown in my case. Reality doesn't seem as it was. Like veil has been lifted off your eyes. I lived majority of my life dissociating, especially when world around me was going out of control. But chasing for control and losing again and again was the biggest lesson of my life. There is really no true control. We are just chasing an idea, a very unrealistic idea, like trying to catch gravity. Maybe some CERN scientist already did that, who knows? I always put my needs on the back seat, thinking if I get this degree, then I'll be happy. If I get this internship, I will be more experienced. If I do this, if I do that, I'll be satisfied and burning out myself in the process. But to be honest, the end result never seemed satisfying enough. And I invested too much of my time at this preparatory mood than actually living it, entertaining all the possible ways I could have done better, lived better, made different choices. But to be honest, I would have been dissatisfied in all those multiverses as well. And in hindsight, we all try to pick best choice in a given set of circumstances. Just lack the acceptance that the outcome isn't in our control. I solely define my existence identity on my career, my activities, my connections, building this elaborate story of how I'm gonna save the world. But apparently, saving doesn't work like that, especially if you require 5 cups of coffee to start your morning like half functioning human. And someone rightfully said, life is ironical. Expect the worst because you are gonna get hit by even worse outcome. Even after considering my luck or lack of, how am I learning this lesson now? Like, that should have been my first conscious realization. Anyway, it felt like I was just in a autopilot mode, trying to execute a story into a reality that I narrated in my brain, not actually considering or acknowledging whether I really wanted it or not. I mean, I'm already too deep into my study, and changing the path seems a bone chilling thing to do. And also, I don't have anything else in my mind enough to commit. So this career and resulting lifestyle became like a toxic warm blanket. Like I can sense it is burning me, but I can't get out because outside world is too cold to survive. So I moved to countryside for a few weeks, to get new perspective. One of the most disheartening discovery I made was changing places doesn't cure you of depression. You can escape from it for a little while, maybe physically, but not in actuality. When night falls, same nightmares, fears, voices creep on you, and the cycle of sleeplessness repeats. And having this hanging crisis of mortality, growing age, especially in regards to aging parents, doesn't help much. And this pandemic only amplified the reality of it. So the problem was not in the scenery of my life, just my mental health. Let's not even go there, or else it will start whole bigger Me Too movement. Although a sudden break from my routine turned out to be an oddly pleasant experience. I would spend my day on terrace, beach, yards, during travel, just observing. Of course, you can't really escape annoying people, so there would be occasional disturbance. But it was nice to exist on sidelines, not having this need to control, improve or correct anything, and watch life go on as usual. People getting on with their day, just being part of the flow. Embracing this foreign side character identity and shedding the ego for a little while made a great difference in realizing how the world will go on with or without you. And that realization was surprisingly relaxing. Not in suicidal way, of course. I may even have shed a tear or two to be able to experience that feeling of being in the present. The thing I was missing was the strength to face my life. I went through so many philosophies like Taoism, Stoicism, Buddhism, modern self-help books, and so on. Apart from being hella contradictory, it only vacated my soul further. There's no single truth, no single norm, no single ideology that fits everyone. Sometimes nothing fits you, you are on your own. That's when new inventions, discoveries are made, when one realizes nothing in this world fits their need. So taking on self to create happiness and seeking contentment. I guess some things really can't be read or learned through books, but through experience. How's that for a philosophy? The thing is, everyone could be your friend, professor, guardian, religious, spiritual gurus, or a media entertainer. All are trying to sell their ideas in form of an advice, caution, story, news, etc. But there is no need for us to know everything because there is no two journeys that are same, even in the same path. Shout out to Paulo Coelho. It's crazy how the whole world makes you think your way of living, thinking, dressing, existing is wrong just because either no one tried it or it didn't work out for them. I mean, if someone chooses to have a career with less opportunities, How does their future become so uncertain that they should fear to even try? If that's how the whole world starts believing, then there won't be any diversity to enjoy. I mean, isn't it more better to walk on a perfectly untouched land by paving your own path instead of getting lost in someone else's already paved path? Trying and failing at your own attempt is much more liberating than succeeding on someone else's wishes. But then again, it is easier said than done. Basically, point is we have got so accustomed to filling our brain with so much unessential information, fear, anxiety, boredom, that it has become trend to be not a functioning individual. In no way I'm downplaying having mental illness. It is very real and important, but intellectualization of it has become the problem. We cannot logic out of it. And self-care to certain extent also comes with a privilege. If I were to visit myself in another timeline, that me would be in another timeline mentally. It is so difficult to stay in the present just because it doesn't align with my idea of expectations. This fear of living has turned into this neuroticism that it gets difficult to go by some days. It felt like being slave of my own ever-changing emotions, moods and thoughts. And this has to stop. Sometimes it's just fine to exist in the present without sliding into past and future simultaneously. There's no need to equate time with money. Time is just time. And it is passing. You can't buy it to live again. It should be normal to sit around gazing, breathing, being aware of your space, surrounding, and enjoying it without having a mental commentary going off in your head, chiding for being unproductive, lazy, and unambitious. It's just a mindless race that will never stop. And if you keep running away from the present, then you wouldn't have a past to look back upon and reminisce with a smile. So I don't have a conclusion. I'm as confused as a 20-something years old should be. The only thing I promise is that I would give myself liberty to take risks, make mistakes, to know the difference between essential and unessential information, tolerance to accept the randomness, and courage to face the unexpected.